Some of the questions that may come up is if we know what is responsible innovation, what is irresponsible innovation? Well, that question is very difficult to answer, but there have been several examples that highlight the need for responsible innovation. The first one, of course, is the vaping product, the Juul vaping product. It's the one of the demonstrated impact is its effect, or it became a tool to encourage teenagers underage it became an entryway to smoking, and there have been a lot of legislation to address or to minimize, or there have been a lot of actions to discourage that trend. Another example is the pain medications. Purdue Pharma had there was overprescription. They took steps in order to encourage the use, oftentimes not needed, and that became to the opioid addiction, very high rate of opioid addiction in the United States, and we know the consequences of that. Another one is the Ashley Madison, the dating website. Yes, there was the technology behind it. It had potential users, but what were some of the moral and ethical implications of such a website? More recently, we had the FTX crash. When it was introduced, it was a lot of people were excited about the technology behind it, but obviously it's revealed now that it had, it crashed. It seemed like it was there was no how to put it, there was no moral it seems like it lacked the moral aspect that you needed from this type of technology. And finally, we have the infinite scroll, which is very good for users, very easy for, it increased engagement, and in the end, it made it so that these websites became more addictive and less productive than what it should be for the users. Anyone, Minu, do you want to share a few things? I don't know if I have covered a lot of these examples really thoroughly. If you want to chime in, if there are some examples that you want to bring up about responsible innovation.
Yeah, no, I think you did, I think you covered most of it. I'm just going to add, I think you did a wonderful job with the examples here. I'm just going to say one or two things. There are several examples that are out there, which, are sometimes hidden. We cannot see because it does not appear in the press, because there's no $2 billion lawsuit, that tanks a company, or only then it appears in popular press or this huge. So a lot of things happen behind the scenes, which, we are not aware of. And companies, and obviously companies have to make a profit. And for example, Ian's example of the infinite scroll is a classic one. It was developed by engineers at Twitter. And, the goal of the project was to maximize engagement, and also, how much time people stay on a website. So it was fantastic for engagement and time spent on the app, which often determines how much revenue the company creates, right, for itself, or how much funding it gets. Especially for startups and smaller companies, it's a lot of a number of active users, how much time they spend. These are how they get funded oftentimes. So it was great for engagement and for people staying time spent on the website. But really murky consequences for teenagers and people spending. For those of you who have kids, we know exactly what we're talking about. How much time kids spend on applications these days, mainly because of the infinite scroll. So I just want to add that in there, because lots of the consequences. One could say some of these consequences are in the case of Ashley Madison, one could argue was deliberate, right? And in some cases, like infinite scroll, it was not anticipated. So, or even Juul is a little more complicated, but I think some of the consequences can be the idea of responsible innovation is to anticipate some of the negative effects. So but at the same time, companies have to make money and a profit and so on and so forth. So building affordances is a big part of anticipating, and building affordances is a big part of responsible innovation. I don't want to go on too much. We have lots of ground to cover, but I just want to add those points about anticipation and building affordances.